What do you say to the people that are now concerned that glyphosate is causing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and there were, I think, 13,000 cases registered and $2 billion lawsuit just got put forward? I know it was retracted by the judge, but there are real cases. There are commercials. There are billboards. There are people that are saying this is killing us. It's giving us cancer. And it's your fault, Monsanto, and you owe us to the tune of billions of dollars.
Yeah, I've tried to read a lot about this, and the best review came from a guy who studied cancer and causes of cancer. And his whole thing is that it's complicated. Cancer is complicated. Who gets cancer is complicated because it's environment, it's lifestyle, it's genetics, all those things rolled in. He said that he looked at the data and all the stuff that came out, and his opinion was that if glyphosate caused cancer, it would be a very low probability. In other words, he put it in between hot tea and bacon. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, he said that in the article, he said that some people get esophageal cancer from drinking too hot liquids. And if you do it often enough, it'll irritate your esophagus and you can develop cancer. And bacon is a cured meat that it has nitrates, and if you eat enough bacon, you can get cancer. Now, does that mean glyphosate has no role in it in any way? Well, it all depends who you are, what your genetics are, and what your situation is. The best study I saw was among the farmers who used glyphosate on a regular basis, and they didn't have an increase in actual cancer.
You did actually just say something that surprised me, because almost everyone else that I talk to about this says, no, it doesn't cause cancer. And you are the first person I've heard that would be from the Monsanto world that would say it's complicated. And I think then the next obvious question is, if it can potentially, it may be low, but it could potentially do it, then why are you using that chemical at all? Why don't we use chemicals that aren't causing cancer?
Well, the answer is, if hot tea can cause cancer, then everything has some basis in causing cancer. It's a matter of how much risk versus how much exposure you get. The dose makes the poison. So if you use enough glyphosate, would you get cancer? I don't know. I don't think they've identified a mechanism by which glyphosate would affect humans. But I'm on shaky ground here. I'm not an oncologist. I don't know what it's like for these people. Did they get cancer because maybe they smoked? Maybe they did recreational drugs? Maybe they lived under high power lines? Maybe... who knows? Maybe they had an extra piece of bacon every morning. Does that cause cancer? I don't know. But I do know that people are always looking for what someone termed to me to be other people's money. So if you're on a jury and you're in California, you say to yourself, I'm not sure about this. A lot of conflicting evidence. But it's a chemical company. And better yet, it's now a German chemical company. We don't really like them. So they've got lots of money. This poor guy's got a tough time. Well, let's give him the money. And I don't think it's any different from what Johnson & Johnson goes through with talcum powder, or what Corning originally went through with breast implants, or even with the opioid crisis. I mean, I understand opioids can be a terrible thing and it can be a destructive aspect, but I've taken that medication from having knee surgeries, and I understood that I didn't want to take too many of them. I wanted to make sure I got off them as quickly as possible. There were all sorts of warnings on the container that I got.
But it was a risk you were willing to take because pain is it has a consequence. And
well, I mean, that was the alternative, and I understood that. But there's a price for everything, and I understand people are different. Some people are more susceptible to the pain. Some people are more susceptible to the opioid. I get it. But that doesn't mean that they were completely unaware of what was going on.
And I was struck while working for Monsanto and going out and addressing people's fears that glyphosate caused cancer, that I one day realized what a lot of the people that are spreading this information are doing and how they're doing it. Now, this is outside of when you were saying people want other people's money. There's a group of people that say, hey, let's do these class action lawsuits and let's make money. Let's bring together investors and let's go get billboards and ads during daytime television. And if you invest into this project and they win, then you will get some percentage of the earnings. And so this goes on. But there is an even different group that I was focused on that I had to learn a lot about, which is who are the people that are out there saying, that are spreading all the blogs, that are putting out all of the information about this stuff causes cancer. And one of the most striking things to me, and I felt myself having this emotion when you said, well, it's in between tea and bacon, because my first thought is, well, I don't want any of that, right? Like I don't want any risk. But it's that I noticed that many of them do this game, and I give speeches and I talk about this where I say, take a glass of water when you go home and slide it over to your spouse, right? Imagine this glass is full. And then look at the glass of water, look up at your friend, look back down at the glass, smile, and then look back up at them. Are they going to drink that glass of water? Hell no, they're not going to drink the water. And that is all you have to do to make it so people have a question. It's etch a little question in their minds. And I guess I'm struck by the fact that that's probably why people don't describe glyphosate's cancer-causing probabilities as in between tea and bacon, is because people want zero impurities in that water, not realizing that even a glass of water you're drinking right now doesn't have zero.
I used to mess with my kids. They when they were younger, there'd be a little bit of milk left in the refrigerator, and they'd say, "Dad, is that milk any good?" Who knows? You better try it. I'm not trying it. Oh, no. And that's the whole basis for trash talking in sports, is you try to instill a little bit of doubt. So the guy who is guarding somebody and he misses a shot, and he goes, you're not going to make the next one. And if you make the next one, you're certainly not going to make the one after that. But hope that you get fouled, because maybe you'll get to the line and you'll make one or two.
Wow. Yeah, that's brutal.
That's just trash talking.
Yeah.
And that's why they do it. And it's kind of like trash talking. You can instill doubt on anybody about anything. But this analysis that put it in between bacon and tea was an article that was in the Wall Street Journal, I think, and I thought it was very balanced, because it's so complicated for people who get cancer. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I don't know much about that disease. I just know that it's a hard disease.
Yeah, that's true. You see the pictures of the people that are victims of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and you definitely must feel a level of empathy for them. No one would choose to have that diagnosis. That's right.
And so, but you ask them questions. I'd like to ask people questions. Well, for instance, I often hear people who, this one is one that just drives me crazy. It's probiotics and the microbiome in your stomach. Well, is it important? Yeah, sure it is. What part is important? Well, we don't know. Well, should you eat yogurt? Oh, yeah. Well, who says? And so then the question is, well, glyphosate disrupts the microbiome. Baloney. Do you drink beer? You drink alcohol? You think alcohol kills bacteria? I'm pretty sure it does. Do you use mouthwash? Yeah, it kills 99% of the germs in your mouth. You think you swallow any? Use fluoride in your toothpaste? Oh, yeah. Well, what do you think fluoride does to bacteria? I mean, Don't tell me that you understand this and then take this as gospel. There are risks all along the way. There are things you can do to improve your dietary concerns. Do you eat high fiber? Do you eat fruit and vegetables? Do you avoid processed foods, highly processed foods? Well, I'm going to eat plant-based burgers. You want to know who the highest processed food I can think of is? That's one of those burgers. I mean, you know what they have to go through to generate those things? Unbelievable amount of processing.
Yeah, and it's an interesting feature because I don't have a problem with processing food, right? That's actually what freed millions and millions of women, for the most part, from the slavery of saying, if I want my children to eat, I have to take the grains that I harvested, put them in a bowl, maybe it's a stump or it's some, and take a large staff and raise it over your head and slam it down again and again and again. Because if you don't have factories crack open the grains, then human beings have to do it. And it is terrible work. Thanks for checking out this podcast short. The rest of the interview is on my page, or you can listen to the audio version at the Vance Crowe Podcast.